On behalf of everyone at WNET, congratulations to Steve Adubato and the CAUCUS Educational Corporation on 25 great years of broadcasting.
Hi, I'm Tom Marino. At Cohn-Resnick, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by CAUCUS Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, Berkeley College, the law firm of Gibbons PC, United Water, making the planet sustainable is the best job on Earth, Wells Fargo, Verizon Communications, and by New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger, powering NJ.com, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and its monthly magazine, New Jersey Business.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Take a look at us. It's been ever since boarding school began. Women are too complex. Women too often vex. Men are the simpler sex. It's better with a man. Better with a man. Better with a man. Better with a man. Bottoms up!
That's good stuff. That was from A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. And right there, put the camera on this guy. He is Jefferson Mays, actor in this terrific play. You play 8 roles in this.
Yes, 8 different members of the same family.
And they're not all men.
No, they're two women.
What's the whole premise here?
Well, it's a story about our hero, Monty Navarro, who's a nice middle-class boy from Edwardian London. Who,
by the way, excuse me, it's Jefferson.
Jefferson, yes.
I apologize.
Yes.
Jefferson
happens all the
Mays.
time.
Okay.
A nice boy from Edwardian London discovers that his late mother was a noblewoman, cruelly shunned by her aristocratic family for marrying beneath her station. And he also discovers that he himself is in line to inherit the title and a vast fortune. And the only problem being there are 8 other people, played by me, standing in his way. So, like any enterprising, sensible chap, he decides to murder them all. And that's comedy.
Well, of course it's comedy. When you read the script, you said, it's for me?
I did. I fell in love with it. Largely because I got to play all these fantastic, colorful characters. I think that's an actor's dream.
But you have a history. In 2004, you win, right, the Tony?
Yes.
For a play you played 37 characters?
37 characters.
Put that in context. I Am My Own Wife.
I Am My Own Wife, which was the story of a gay, 65-year-old East German transvestite who survived the Nazis and the communists, living openly as a cross-dresser.
And you read that and you go,
that has me all over it. Yes. No, I read that and I was horrified, but I had to do it because it was just so improbable.
And, okay, first of all, the costume changes go back to this one, right?
Yes.
The costume changes for the 8 roles, 2 of whom are women.
Yes.
You got to describe that for us.
I'm not sure that I can because it happens so fast.
How
and in the dark.
Some of them, in the dark.
In the dark.
You. Go ahead.
Yes. Some of them just a matter of seconds. Some happen on stage. A little curtain comes in and then goes out again, and there I am transformed. But I owe everything. I think I owe my entire performance to my 3 and sometimes 4 dressers. And it's a whiplash-inducing experience that I've never experienced before. I finish a scene, I hurl myself into the darkness, 4 people descend upon me, tear my clothes off, put me into other clothes, rip off a mustache, put on a wig, squirt water in my mouth, and shove me bodily back onto the stage.
Hold on, you're talking about acting or the Indianapolis 500
Exactly.
in a pit crew?
Precisely. They are the pit crew at the Indy 500. Yeah.
And when you come out there, because sometimes, because I'm not a big, indie guy, but I know that sometimes the wheels are not on right.
Sometimes
Is everything
my
on
wheels are-
together? Your wheels
more or
on right?
less, more or less. One time, early days, a mustache refused to stay on my face, so I had to eat it.
What do you mean you had to eat
I
it?
just ate it. What else do you do? It got a laugh.
Of course it did. And here's the thing. I was just talking to you about this before we got on the air. Keeping the character straight, 8.
Yes.
How challenging?
It was tricky. I'm better at it now. But early days, Julian, my dresser, sometimes had to whisper to me who I was in the dark before pushing me onto the stage.
Wow. This is fascinating. And the other thing I was saying to you that I'm curious and I want you to share with everyone here. When did you know, growing up in Connecticut?
Yes.
When did you know, hey, I want to perform on stage, I want to act?
I think at a very early age, and then I forgot it for a number of years. But I had this weird sort of epiphany in which a little voice in my head said, you know, if all else fails, you can become an actor. And
No, wait. You told me before you're out there. There's a butterfly.
that sounds sort of spooky.
No, you got to say that. You can't say that
all
off
right,
air.
I'm going to tell you the spooky story. I was taking a beautiful autumnal walk with my mom.
A what walk?
An autumnal walk in the fall.
I'm from New Jersey, and that word is not allowed.
Sorry.
Autumnal?
Autumnal walk, a walk in the fall, down to see the monarch butterfly migration.
Okay.
They inhabited this tree. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen against this blue autumn sky, all these butterflies. And that moment of arrest in front of such a beautiful sight, I had this little voice in my head saying, if all else fails, you can become an actor. And it seemed so true to me. And I told my mother, and she said, don't you dare, that's crazy. But then, lo and behold, years later, I fell into it in college and just have never been more joyful in my life.
The biggest influences in your professional life?
My parents. They read aloud to me as a kid, and I think that was my first introduction to performance. Our television fell off the table sometime during the Vietnam War and got caught up in the dog running under it. And so my parents got out some of their favorite books and read to us after dinner every night. Lots of Charles Dickens, James Thurber. And I just remember my mother's face changing when she was reading different characters. And I was fascinated and kind of spooked by that. And that, I think, was my first introduction to theater. Because what is theater, after all? It's an actor telling a story to an audience. And that's essentially reading aloud.
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness was a boyhood hero of mine. And I indeed saw the film, Kind Hearts and Cornets, based on the same source material as A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. I saw that when I was about 9 and fell in love with him. And,
Why?
Because, again, he was such a transformative actor. He played all the members of this family, and he had the benefit of prosthetics. But I thought it was amazing that this one guy could do all these characters, and I think at that point I sort of fell in love with acting.
It's interesting that you see people as a younger person doing something that inspires you and motivates you, and you say, I want to do that or something like that.
Yes.
Is that how it works?
I think it does. I think what we're exposed to as children certainly affects who we are in life, but I just remember never getting more excited by things than I was in elementary school or middle school or even high school before the brain fully forms. You're so receptive to things, and that's why I think, you know, having exposure to art in school at that age is so important.
And finally, this play is important and special. By the way, people can see it where?
It is playing at the Walter Kerr Theater on 48th Street, Broadway.
And people should see it, and it's special because? Other than the fact that you're in it?
Other than that, it's just a rollicking good time. It's just delightful to see an audience come in and sit down and then succumb to the delights and the spell of this play, which leaves everyone feeling pretty much uniformly joyful.
And the other cast?
The other cast, the great Bryce Pinkham, who plays the evil Monty Navarro, who kills me.
He was in the clip?
Yes, he was. He was in that clip. It's an extraordinary ensemble. Lisa O'Hare, who's making her Broadway debut as the devious Sibella, and Lauren Worsham, who's a preternaturally talented soprano and opera singer who's playing Phoebe Dysquith.
Last question. Being a working actor, I know that sounds like a cliche, right?
Or an oxymoron. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
To be a working actor.
Yeah.
I think just that. It doesn't matter where you're working. if you're playing Hamlet in Fairbanks, Alaska, I mean, that's a fantastic thing. It's just to be working. I mean, we're so lucky. I'm so lucky to be simply working at all. I mean, I'm on Broadway, and that's the icing on the cake, but I just love to work and seize any opportunity.
Yeah. Like being a working broadcaster, talking to fascinating people like you.
Oh.
Jefferson Mays, who is an actor starring in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, playing at
the Walter Kerr Theater at 48th Street and Broadway.
We wish you nothing but the best, Jefferson.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Steve.
for joining us here on public television.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, Ph.D.
Dr. Joseph Nyre is president of Iona College in New Rochelle, New York. Good to see you.
Great to be with you, Steve.
Joe, let me ask you, Iona is a place that I know because I spent some time up there back in the late 70s, going to school there.
Right.
Run by the Christian Brothers.
That's right.
A special place. Why?
Very special place for a number of reasons, but the Christian Brothers moved the world. I mean, they came into this country, established high schools, established Iona College, and they helped ensure that first-generation families had access to higher education, this pathway to a different life. And it's a special, special place that you know well, that the people of that college, whether you're the Christian brother, whether you're a professor in biology or a groundskeeper, they're there to ensure students go on to have great successes like you. And that's why I was so excited to become their president 2.5 years ago.
Well, our mutual friend, Patrick Dunnigan, who knows Iona well, we were having this conversation recently about Iona, and he said, you know, the place has changed a lot since I was there. And it has.
That's right.
But the mission has not changed. So I want you to put things in perspective. Diversity is very important. What people do after they graduate is very important in terms of giving back, et cetera, et cetera. Talk about what Iona is about today and how it's evolved.
So the core of the college remains unchanged. We are an Irish Catholic Christian Brothers college that welcomes all faith. But we used to be a commuter college and a smaller college. And over time, 75% of our students want to live on campus. It's a vibrant academic community. We still have a lot of commuter students, but what's probably most special about the college, in addition to our Christian Brothers heritage, is our students go on to move the world. And we recently began talking a lot about,
for example,
how they move the world. Whether you take an alum like you or Al Kelly, who was the president of American Express running the Super Bowl this year, or a current student who went on a mission trip to Zambia as part of her Iona College experience. And she experienced water scarcity and the impact it had on human lives. So that was a learning experience, but the question is, what did she do about it? She came back to the United States. She founded a nonprofit as an Iona College student, Wellspring, Inc.
Wellspring, Inc.
That's right. And she's raising money and installing water purification systems in Africa, and she just put one in a hospital. That's an Iona student from their experience going on to move the world.
You know, it's interesting. I remember, and again, when you talk about the Christian Brothers, for people who don't know, they may know the Jesuits because they're better known. Sometimes I think their marketing is better, but the Christian Brothers, and I went to a Christian Brothers high school, Essex Catholic High School in Newark, New Jersey, which unfortunately doesn't even exist anymore, mostly because of economic reasons. It's hard to explain to people, and I'm not going to get into this whole thing, but so much of what we grew up in and so much of what Iona is about in my old high school was about service.
About service.
I mean, it was expected of us. And when I was at Iona, I'll never forget, Special Olympics were there, and we were expected to volunteer to do Special Olympics. We had a mentoring program that was at one of the local grammar schools. We were expected to mentor and teach in after-school programs. And I'm not doing a commercial for these guys. I'm just saying it was expected, and the Christian Brothers expected that of us. And that hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed. Part of the fabric of the college is service-oriented. In fact, we want all students to engage in service as part of their graduation experience at the college. So whether they're in New Rochelle, whether they're coming down to New York City on midnight runs to feed the homeless, whether they're in New Orleans building houses, whether they're off in Zambia installing water purification systems. We want our students engaged in service. This country is made this way because it is so philanthropic and service-oriented. And Iona College is at the core of that.
But people who question, Joe, all right, fine. You can be involved in community service, you can do a lot of good things, but the investment, because college is not cheap.
Right.
Those who question the investment and the ROI, return on that investment, and say, listen, I don't know if it's really worth going to college these days, you say?
That's a great question, and it's being asked more now than ever before. And that's concerning. Affordability is an issue. I went to college for 12 years. You went to college for a long time. It's grown to be a
We should tell folks it wasn't good because it just took a long time to graduate. We went on for other degrees. You make it sound like we just hung out in college for 12 years, but go ahead.
Right, but
advanced degrees were involved.
Advanced degrees were involved, that's right. But we know the cost, and the cost of higher education has become difficult, especially for first-generation families. So affordability is an issue, and Iona is aggressively pursuing that problem. So we've been curbing our tuition increases.
Curbing?
Yeah, so our tuition increases are smaller than they were before. The cost of fuel goes up every year. The cost of health insurance goes up every year. But we're working hard to curb that cost. Secondly, we're ensuring that students have more scholarship money than ever before. We gave away $42 million this year in scholarships.
Is that part of Iona Forever campaign?
It's part of Iona Forever. So incoming freshmen are paying less net tuition, less out of pocket as a student than the freshman the year prior. So we're driving down the cost of attendance. There are some other things we can do with affordability. And it's being done in higher ed, and we're focused on it at Iona. We want to increase the speed of degree attainment. So we don't want a 5-year plan for an undergraduate degree. In fact, I'd like to see a lot of our students attain that degree in 3.5 years. They can go on and get a graduate degree in the next year and be out in 4. We think that's very valuable. Lastly, we want to make sure we recognize in this society that there are experiences students have at other colleges and other places. We're much more mobile than we've ever been before, that we credit those experiences. And we have students come in and maybe finish their degrees at Iona College and have that special experience that you had and that I'm blessed to have every day.
Last area I want to talk about, learning in retirement. Talk about that, because I know that that's an important area.
It's critically important. So we have LYRIC, we call it, Learning in Retirement at Iona College, and we have retirees that help make our campus what it is. They come in and they're in the classrooms and they're learning and they're on campus adding another perspective, a multi-generational perspective for students, but they're also students. They're lifelong learners.
Well, it's an interesting place, a great place, and I remember my time not just on North Avenue, if you will, a great place to be with a lot of people and a lot of activity there, but a great campus and good people there. And I want to thank Dr. Joseph Nyre, president of Iona College. It was a great place for me and a lot of other people, and the Christian Brothers always made sure you kept in line, let's just say that. One-on-one continues from the Tisch WNET studios right here in the heart of New York City. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, Ph.D.
Carl Goodman is the executive director of the Museum of the Moving Image. How you doing?
Doing well. Great to be here, Steve.
Now, I want to make sure that people know what the Museum of the Moving Image is. It's located where?
We're in Astoria, Queens, in a burgeoning cultural district anchored by Kaufman Astoria Studios, which has been in operation since the 1920s. We also say that we're 3 subway stops from Bloomingdale's for those who wonder what Astoria is. But once you've been to Astoria, again, which is part of New York City, you'll be coming back again and again.
But that location itself, where you are, is very significant in the filmmaking world.
It is, and it has always been thus. It was the East Coast facility of Paramount Pictures in the 1920s.
Oh, that little place?
Yes. And today, it's
That's the exterior.
It's home of, wonderful, it's home of Sesame Street.
Oh, come on. You're talking our language, Sesame Street.
Exactly. Orange is the New Black, the wonderful show, downloadable on Netflix, as they say, and most recently, Alpha House, Gary Trudeau's new political comedy, which is on Amazon.
Oh, that's terrific. That Kelly Ripa's husband, I think, is in that with John Goodman, some other terrific
John
people.
Goodman, Bill Murray has been on the show. It's
Mark Consuelos. He has a real name. I shouldn't call him Kelly Ripa's.
There we go.
I'm sorry about that.
And us, right? We're there, and we're the place that people can go to learn about the history, the art, the technology of film, television, and digital media.
But here's what's interesting. There are other museums, right? A lot of museums, particularly where we are in the heart of New York City. What makes your museum special and different?
Well, in a certain respect, we do what other museums do, which is we have exhibitions, we have programs, in our case over 500 live programs and screenings per year, and we have a very, very important education program. We see 50,000 students per year, workshops, tours. What distinguishes us is what we're about. You know, we're about the most powerful form of expression and communication of our time.
Film.
Film, this medium, what is still called television, and everything you experience on the internet. By calling ourselves the Museum of the Moving Image, we are able to explore all facets of these forms, which used to be distinct, used to be separate industries, and today are converged more and more. And we get to explore video games as a medium.
Video games?
Sure. Very important.
Moving image.
Anything on a screen. But we look for what the best, the most interesting, the most culturally significant. And again, like any museum, we're not going to show just anything. We focus, and our curators focus on the best in the movie.
Okay, but here, you say that you want to talk about the significance of these things. What makes, give us an example of something that you and your colleagues think is significant that the rest of us should pay attention to because, hey, that's important.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly we think that an awareness and understanding of what goes on behind the scenes, you know, I mean, people right now are looking at one thing. We're looking at something completely different. There are many, many people around us. What do they do? How do they do it? What do they need to know? What tools do they use? Learning about what goes on behind the scenes, we feel leads, again, to a greater understanding and appreciation of the form. And because media today is participatory and is being democratized, this is no longer something that they watch that we do. It's something that everyone can make and do. And to be a citizen in this century, in this time, it is important that you understand, and you also have an opportunity to make media.
So one of the exhibits actually talks about the people who are the projectionists, the film projectionists, right? Mm-hmm. Now I'm fascinated by that because there was a movie years back that not a lot of people know about, but Cinema Paradiso.
Sure.
Now, it was one of my favorites, and it was in many ways about a lot of things. A lot of it was about Italy, but it was also about the old man and the kid who taught the kid about film in this small community in Italy, and he was the film projectionist, right? Mm-hmm. That was special. Am I on the right track?
Sure. Well, that is one exhibit we have called The Booth.
The Booth.
And it is essentially a photography exhibit that showcases projectionists in their natural habitat. Now, film projection is let's call it a dying art.
Because?
Because we have moved entirely to digital. Next year, there will not be a single first-run theater showing movies in the way they've been shown before, which is essentially a series of photographic images reanimated using celluloid run through a film projector. So many great works, of course, are made and experienced in this way. But again, today, the medium of video, even though a film might be captured on film, is being used to project what you see on the screen.
Sorry for interrupting. So you're saying we need to, before this dies, we want to know who these people are, what they did, because it was important, because we're moving on?
Mm-hmm. This is the heritage and history of our field. And also, there is a really, really interesting debate going on about whether or not the digital conversions of these projected films are as good or better than the original. it is safe to say that the Museum of the Moving Image and a number of other institutions will be the only place you can see film projected.
Before I let you out of here, people are watching movies. We have a 9, 11-year-old who's saying, yeah, I saw the movie on my digital. What are you talking about? What do you mean you saw the movie on your thing? You don't see a movie there. You see a movie in a big screen. No, I don't want to go to the movies.
Okay, well, you're a purist.
I want to see a movie. No? Am I the part of the dying breed?
And that's why you'll come to the Museum of the Moving Image. No, what's dying is the way in which movies are shown in a theater. But the communal experience of watching a great movie in a great theater on a big screen is stronger than ever. And what we found is our audience, who may have seen a great film this weekend, let's say Bertolucci's The Conformist, on a smaller screen, will then come to the museum to see it in the way they know it's intended to be viewed. So actually all of this multi-platform, mobile, interactive technology is still leading people back to the movie theater to see a movie in the manner in which it's meant to be seen.
So old school movies being seen in a communal setting, not dead yet.
And new school movies as well. Many of the greatest filmmakers will come to the museum and show their work that hasn't yet been released.
By the way, that's why we're partners with our friends at the Montclair Film Festival and other great film festivals, because film is not dead, it's just moving along. That's why Carl Goodman, the executive director of the Museum of the Moving Image, is doing important work out in Astoria, Queens.
Astoria, Queens, come see us.
Good stuff. Listen, we wish you nothing but the best. You came here, and we are part of that television.
We are about what you do.
And you love PBS.
Absolutely. Couldn't be where we are without it.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, Berkeley College, the law firm of Gibbons PC, United Water, Wells Fargo, Verizon Communications, and by New Jersey Natural Gas. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been made possible in part by the Adler Aphasia Center.
Hi, I'm Governor Tom Kean. A dear friend of mine had aphasia, which is a language disorder that occurs from a brain injury or a stroke. It robs a person's ability to communicate, but it doesn't affect their intellect. Programs and services offered at the Adler Aphasia Center help to improve my friend's communication skills, as well as her self-confidence and quality of life. Most importantly, she was among people who understood her. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with aphasia, there is hope.